put yourself into their behavior patterns. And that's where your marketing plan starts.
And content marketing is an investment. It's a long-term play. This is really laying out a strategy for the future. Welcome everybody back to another Subta Studios videocast. I am Paul Chambers, co-founder and CEO of Subta, and I'm so lucky to be here with these brilliant ladies today. I have Amy Sage and Ronnie Nokon from Parenting EQ, and I have Ray Cornell from Cornell Content Marketing. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
I'm really excited because prior to this interview, I ordered one of your boxes, and you were so kind to send me both of them. You have two tiers, and we'll dive in and talk about that here in a little bit. We're excited to open the box and find some fun stuff inside that we know is going to help us. And I want to know, learn about your mission. Tell us more about the box and tell us where you're going before I spill all the beans, because I'm excited about it.
Both Amy and I are parents as well. We both have school-age children. And we are also school counselors. We've been doing school counseling for the last 15 years, and we have worked with all age kids. And prior to the pandemic, for many years, we kept seeing an increase in symptoms of stress and anxiety in children. Mm-hmm. And the term mental health crisis was being used often, not just in the school that we were working at, but really across the country. And we had become very reactive in our jobs instead of proactive. We felt like we were putting band-aids on the problems. And even though social emotional learning is being used in the classroom, that's basically the curriculum that teachers and counselors are using to build really important skills like interpersonal relationships, self-awareness, empathy, motivation. What we saw missing was that there weren't really a lot of resources being provided to parents where they could really have an impact on reinforcing these skills at home. Mm-hmm. And so that's where this idea of Parenting EQ was born. Mm-hmm. We wanted to provide parents all different types of tools and resources that were hands-on and easy to use with their kids. And we saw that there were so many subscription boxes out there that focused on, different types of super important enrichment activities, but none that focused on emotional wellness or building a positive family environment. So that's kind of where we came in.
And so I know your product's designed with kind of two different age groups in mind. There's the mini and the junior. Did I get that correct?
Yes.
And looking at it. So mini, I think was it ages 5 to 8?
4 to 7.
4 to 7. Okay, I was off let's shift it a little
Very
bit. So 4 to 7, and then the junior?
8 to 11.
8 to 11. So you're marketing, to maybe like two different demographics of parents there. Some, like in my house, I've got both, right? Mm-hmm. And those, some maybe others. How does that affect your acquisition strategy? Does that affect your targeting and how you're talking to your audience?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And we design the lines because, their kids are developmentally in different places. And then when we're looking at how we're targeting, so for the mini, the 4 to 7, that's a lot of parents who are interested in helping kids, kind of more of that proactive. But then also we've been talking with charter schools, because really this can be viewed as an SEL curriculum for homeschooling parents, and then kind of more general population of people just looking for parenting ideas and resources. And then for the junior, age 8 to 11, it still can be proactive parenting, but a lot of times people are kind of anticipating those teen years and thinking, ooh, I should probably increase some of these skills. And then also, they might be seeing some specific behaviors or concerns. And so we've been sharing our products with doctors and therapists and school counselors, because those are really the places that they're going to go to ask for some assistance.
So Ray, when you look at this from a content marketing perspective, what questions come to mind for you? And because this is something where, I think there's tremendous opportunity to start to create conversations out there. What are some things where when you look at this, you're like, wow, here's some great ways to start to get this rolling out? And I'm curious to get your thoughts.
Yeah, so there's so many factors at play right now, right? So first, you mentioned the multiple audiences. So for Parenting EQ, they have two audiences that are then broken down into smaller audiences. So for example, they have the parenting audience, and then as you pointed out, they have within that audience parents of the 5 to 7, and then they have the parents of the 8 to 11. On the Other side, they have a professional audience of school counselors, teachers, doctors. So we have to keep those audiences in mind. You can't just be firing out content that is geared towards just one segment of that broad audience. You have to make sure that you're balancing it to answer the questions that are coming up for everyone that you want to speak to and that you want to appeal to. And then the other piece of this is, you mentioned the pandemic in particular, and we have to notice the trends that are coming because of the pandemic. There's an increased concern around screen time. And so for parenting EQ in particular, and for any brand that is really aiming to solve a problem, you have to put yourself in the mindset of the people who we want to reach are struggling with this problem, this pain point. Where are they going to go for those solutions? And as Amy pointed out, they're going to go to the professionals who they see as the authorities with the resources and expertise to help them, like the school counselors, like the doctors, like the therapists. And they're also going to go to Google. They're going to search on Google for, my kid is depressed. Is my kid depressed? My kid is anxious. What do I do? How do I help my child? And so you need to orient your marketing towards those endpoints that will provide them with the solution when they're looking for it, when they're receptive to it, not necessarily bombarding them with Facebook or Instagram ads when they're just trying to, relax and scroll and catch up with what their friends are doing. So it's all about understanding where they're most receptive to accepting your solution to their problem.
It sounds challenging, but it sounds like you got a lot of great starting points in there of knowing, okay, let's look at our audiences, and then let's look at, what our audiences are talking about. I mean, I guess I'm curious from your perspective, Ray, where, when you start to lay out a strategy like this, when you start to look at an overall content strategy, what is the best part of the starting point? Is it understanding the audiences? Is it understanding, what people are talking about, or what kind of questions they're asking? I mean, is there a perfect mix of the two?
Yeah, it always starts with putting yourself in the shoes of your audience members.
Yeah.
A lot of what I see companies doing is they meet internally and they go, okay, what do we have to say? What do we want to share with the world? Why is our product amazing? And they want to put that information out from themselves. But what's far more effective is putting yourself mentally, emotionally in the shoes of your target buyer. And my background is in psychology, so this comes very naturally to me and to the parenting EQ ladies of how are people feeling right now who are struggling with the problem. You have to understand that first and put yourself into their behavior patterns of, okay, I'm overwhelmed, I'm stressed, I'm probably sleep deprived, I'm very concerned about my child, I have all of these worries, I have this feeling of guilt of, am I not a good enough parent? Am I failing as a parent? With all of that weight, where do you go for solutions? And that's where your marketing plan starts. It doesn't start from you as the company. It starts from that moment of, I need help from the customer.
So, how have you leveraged, and I hate to say leverage because it sounds like you're taking advantage of it, but you're helping this community. How have you leveraged kind of what the pandemic has done to help get the word out amongst your community and help create that awareness, Ronnie and Amy? I'm super curious.
I think when we, initially had this idea for parenting EQ, and we still truly believe this, that these are skills that all kids could benefit from.
Yeah.
These are skills that we wish that we had been taught as children, and these weren't quite emphasized, at least, in my household or, in the schools that I attended. So there's a lot of remedial work for us too, even as adults and parents. And so initially that was our thought, like, these are skills that everyone needs, and we still believe that. But I think when the pandemic came and it started to highlight some of these issues that kids were experiencing and families were experiencing, it sort of shifted our marketing approach to what are the problems that we can help solve. So it went from kind of a broad marketing approach to being more specific and trying to really hone in on, like, what are the needs of our community right now specifically? What are the needs even in my own house? The things that I'm seeing with my own children. And so that kind of shifted how we approached, the type of materials that we're getting out there for the community.
Got it. And from there, as you're looking at it and you're seeing a lot of the community asking these questions, was your natural instincts like, okay, we need to start a blog and start writing about this content? and writing about these things?
It's funny because as school counselors, like our background, our passion has always been about getting resources and strategies and information out to parents. That's what we did all day long. We're in the classroom teaching kids, we're talking with parents, we're working with families. And so just getting that information out was kind of natural. The selling the product part is the whole new piece for us.
And so that's an interesting point you made there. And what you're saying is that you know the information you want to get there, you know what you need to say to your audience and how you can help them. And then it's about creating that connection point to and teaching them and educating them and helping them, and then getting them into the product as well to help them purchase. How do you help share, educate, grow the community and make them aware of your product at the same time without seeming too salesy, I guess?
Not every single thing that you're putting out there needs to be selling your product. For example, ButcherBox sends me recipes. I love that. Thank you so much. You just made making dinner for the week easier on me. Thank you. That's what it really takes to build longevity. And especially when we're talking about subscription brands, it's about that retention piece. The tactics that work for traditional B2B and B2C brands where they just need to sell, 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 and it's all about volume, don't necessarily work for subscription brands where, yes, we need to sell, but we also need to retain. And that's when it becomes more about offering value, education, support, reminders to use the product that they've received in these boxes. And, going back to something else that you said earlier about trends, it's about really paying attention to those trends on how are people searching for the solutions to their problems. So one of the things that we did with Parenting EQ was we looked into the SEO data to see what are people searching for now. It's very different from what people were searching for a year ago. So you have to stay up to date on those trends and always take that data and then ask yourself, how can we provide value? This is what the SEO data is saying. How can we use these keywords in blogs to then build a relationship? So it's not just about pleasing the Google algorithms, which is important, but it's far more important to please the humans who are making the decision to know, like, trust, and buy from your brand.
Yeah. And content marketing is an investment. It's a long-term play. And sometimes, sometimes you can get lucky and have a quick hit and some good Google results, but this is really laying out a strategy for the future of where people are going, especially as the ads game is continuing to change. You're not going to know what acquisition costs are. Those continue to rise. There's very few platforms. And we get this question a lot here at Subta. When should companies look to engage somebody to help them with their marketing support? And when should they consider doing it internally? Like where's that break point? Where's that balance in there?
For me, it's all about quality and capacity. So first of all, if you look at your team and you say, okay, here's everyone's lane, here's where they're an expert, here's what they really bring to the table in terms of value, let's keep them focused on that. If you have each of your team members focused on what they do best and where they can really contribute to the growth, and then you go, okay, what's left? Well, if you notice that there's a gap in terms of content creation, social media management, email marketing, automation, any of these things, that's where you go, okay, now it's time to bring in someone who specializes in that, because you're going to spend money either way. You're either going to pay someone on your team, or you're going to spend your own time, which is valuable, or you're going to pay someone to come in and do it for you. Now, who can do it the best way that's going to move the needle for you the most? If you can focus on running your business, building connections, talking about your product, understanding your audience's needs, while someone else worries about the actual content creation, SEO, automation, traffic data, analyzing all of that, and can really drive leads for you in that way while you're focused on what you do best, then that's a win-win. So I would say, rather than trying to have someone who is already on your team split their focus and learn something new, which is going to take them far longer and it's not going to be as high quality because they don't have that expertise, rather than doing that, just go bring in that third-party person who can do it right for you the first time. Because as you said, with content marketing, it is a long game. And so it means that those first steps that you take need to be strong. Because, for example, we have clients who we wrote blog content for 3, 4, 5 years ago, still getting sales from those blog pieces. It's something that you put online that lives forever. You paid for it once, unlike ads, but it lives online forever. And so you have to make sure that when it is living online forever, it's doing you justice. It's doing you right. It's driving your business goals.
Yeah, it's focused, it's impactful. And are there ways to take that written content and use it in other fashions? So taking it and putting it out in tweets or Facebook posts or Instagram, do you find that can help as well?
Oh, absolutely. Especially social media, especially email. You have to think about, if you think of the sales funnel, brand awareness, interest, decision, action, and then of course there's that fifth layer for subscription industry, which is retention. How are you leveraging your content to serve at each stage of that plan? Are you sending it out to your existing list to remind them of the value that you provide and make sure that they know that you're still here for them and they have that relationship with you? Are you putting it out on Pinterest, where parents in particular are searching for ways to do at-home activities with their kids? Are you putting it on Facebook? Are you creating little slide videos to put them out on YouTube, which is also heavily SEO driven? Are you sharing it with your professional network on LinkedIn, particularly if you do have a dual audience like Parenting EQ? So absolutely repurposing all of that, and vice versa. If you're doing something like podcasting or creating video, you can always take those more visual or audio pieces and convert them into text, plump
Yeah.
them up with SEO, and just get all of the benefits of that multi-pronged inbound lead approach.
Yeah. So it sounds like a really good piece of content can go a long way and create a lot of value beyond just the value of it being on your site. And I mean, I've been a content marketer for 20 plus years. And so I love and appreciate every piece of this conversation, not from just from that side, but the parenting side too. This is like my world is fulfilled right now and talking about all these things. Looking at subscription companies as a whole, and obviously, Parenting EQ, what are some tips, Ray, that you would offer to subscription companies out there that are looking to get started into doing more content marketing?
First, know your audience. Don't put out a single thing. Don't waste time, money, energy, resources on creating content that you think the world is going to want. Find out for sure. Go into the communities, go into the SEO research. In particular, this happens a lot when we do SEO strategies for companies, where we meet and we say, okay, what are our ideal keywords? If we could rank for anything, what would be like the number one thing that we really want to rank for? And then I go do research, and it turns out there are 10 searches per month for that phrase, but a slightly different related one is getting 5-figure search volume per month, and has low difficulty because nobody's aware of it. Make sure that you're not just creating content and thinking, oh, this might be a good word for it, just plucking it out of thin air. Make sure that you're actually going to the data. Make sure you're going to the source, which is your customer. You want to make sure you're pleasing them, solving their pain points. So go into the Facebook groups, go into the Amazon reviews, go into the Reddit forums. Spend the time to get to know who you're actually selling to, who you're actually building relationships with.
And you made an interesting point in there of, what you think might be everybody searching for this. When you look at the underlying data, there's only a couple of people, but boy, look at this over here. This is just a little bit different than that, and a lot more searches. And we could, I would imagine, seemingly you could start to rank well for that in Google and get more traction with it then.
The other piece of that is when you start to create high quality content that people appreciate and that is data driven. And by data driven, I mean, it's coming from the humans, but then we have, the machines and the algorithms quantifying that data. You are having these compounding effects on your domain authority, your site authority, your shareability, backlinks. So creating one piece of content has the potential to ripple effect into massive visibility and growth.
It's so much fun when you start to see the effects of it too, and the fruits of the labor there start to kind of produce themselves. It's great. And so Ronnie and Amy, super interested to hear what some of your top tips are for parents out there right now, dealing with all the various different challenges that are thrown at us every single day. What can you leave us with that hopefully I can help make it so my 10-year-old doesn't freak out on me next time?
Well, it has to start with us. Because if we're not in a good place, then it doesn't matter what the strategy is. Like, it really has to come. So you have to make it a priority to take care of your emotional health. And basically that means self-care. We just can't give what we don't have. We have to model it and we have to teach it directly. Sometimes we think they'll just pick it up, but we have to really kind of explain, like, what are we doing? And so one easy way to do that is we always like to talk about doing things that are good for your mind, your body, and your heart. And you can do this with your children because, children, they're like us. They want to have independence. They want to have a say. They don't want things done to them. Otherwise, they'll just fight us on it, right? So we say to them, hey, what are some things you can do for your mind, grow your brain? What's healthy for your body? And then what's good for your heart would be, like, what are your passions, and discovering those and growing those. And so if you don't know a place to start for yourself, you guys can sit down and everybody can come up with some ideas for all three of those categories. Maybe you can do it together as a family, set some family goals around that. Maybe it's just individually. And then, especially because we want our kids to take some time from device time, I like to say to my kids, what are you doing for your mind, body, and heart before you're going to get on a device? Because we want to be balanced in what we're doing. And then, it really all starts too with self-awareness, because you can't change what you're not aware of. And then once you're aware of it, it's really hard not to change it. And so identifying and doing check-ins with our feelings, with ourselves and our kids, are really big clues to what's going on with us and maybe some things to work on. And then once you kind of identify that, it's all about calming down, practicing how to handle those big feelings. Whether we're in a pandemic or not, there's always going to be challenging situations. They're not going to go away. And so if we know how to calm ourselves down, then we are responding instead of reacting. And that's always going to benefit us.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add too, and practicing those strategies when you're not upset and when your child's not upset, so that they have those tools readily available for that moment. So it never works for my son if he's starting to have a meltdown. I'm like, start the 5-finger breathing. Like, what? No, we have to have it practiced before. So it's something that he knows to go to on his own. And that's been really, it's really empowered him to use those tools.
Yeah. Yeah. And and there's these little things in there that you guys offer such great tips through the box. Like, I highly recommend your box here. This isn't, you didn't pay me to say this isn't a sales promo. Like, I'm in love with this because I care so much about my kids and I want to do better for them every day. So I think you guys are on track for success here. I think it's really exciting too.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah. So thanks for being here today. Thanks for joining me. We covered so much information. We covered so much great knowledge. Ray sharing about learning and knowing your audience, understanding that sometimes there's hidden gems in the little keywords you don't think about and you don't see or hear. And Amy and Ronnie sharing about really, taking care of ourselves so we can also help be present for our children. Fantastic advice. Thank you so much. So happy to have all of you on today. Truly appreciate it. Just real quick, if you wouldn't mind sharing the website for is parentingeq.com, correct? Any other channels you want to share, or any other ways our audience can find you?
Yeah, so we're also on Instagram at Parenting EQ, and Facebook, as well as LinkedIn and Pinterest. So all the main
Perfect.
channels.
And remind me again, how much is each box and the frequency of it?
So the boxes are $49.95 and then plus shipping. And then they come out every other month because it does take a while to kind of practice these skills. So
Got it. I think that's a perfect frequency and gives you that time to build that into it. And what a small price to pay to have just happiness in your life and great children and great interactions as parents. So I think that's a very worthy investment. And Ray, for Cornell Content Marketing, your website, and how should our audience find you?
Yeah, so we're at cornellcontentmarketing.com. I'm also on LinkedIn, where every month, we're sharing tips about different types of content marketing strategies. So if you follow us on LinkedIn, you'll get those for your business. If you follow us on Instagram, you'll get those as if you are a writer or if you're doing it in-house.
And as a reminder for our audience, you can always find us at subta.com. We have some great, amazing resources out there and some amazing members and partners, such as our kind guests on the show here today, that you can connect with and network with. And we'd be excited to also see everyone at SubSummit coming up here this fall in Dallas, either in person or virtual, whatever you're most comfortable with. If you liked our video today, as my kids would say, smash that like button, subscribe, follow us, however you want to find us, and Sub to Studios. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining me today. I truly appreciate it.